Hello and welcome to Gefet in the Daf. I'm Yael Shimoni, and today, acting as your translator, since Baruch Hashem, Rabbanit Yael has been joining us again in this Masechet Gittin, and I highly recommend for all of you who have Hebrew, listen to her shir after you listen to my shir, because she's a wonderful Mavir shir, and I'm here really the translator, so you can hear both of us. And we're very excited to open Masechet Gittin, which we've learned in Yeshiva a few years ago. And this first daf, the sugiyat pticha, the opening sugiyah of Masechet Gittin, has a lot of different things that will follow us throughout the entire Masechta. So this Gefet is good to hear in any part of your learning of Gittin. And those of you who are in the beginning, those of you who already moved forward to the next week, it is still a very good thing to learn now. So we'll be teaching and looking at Din Lishma. There's a lot to say about Din Lishma, and as usual, we're going to look at a few Rishonim on explaining and understanding the big machloket on Din Lishma. So I'm starting in Daf Bet, and the Mishnah says, המביא גט ממדינת הים צריך שיאמר בפניי נכתב ובפניי נחתם. The Mishnah here is describing a very interesting situation, that the get is not being delivered from a man to his wife on the spot in the same room, but that the man and woman are far away from one another. The man is in Medinat Hayam, and the get comes here to Eretz Yisrael through a shaliach. And this is a very good opportunity to notice that almost all of the situations that are described in the Mishnah are situations of this kind, which means there is a very big distance between the husband and wife before the gerushin. This is not like what it sounds in the Torah. In the Torah, the description of gerushin is very face-to-face, and here we're in a different situation. Why are we talking about this kind of get? Why are all the Gittin in the Masechet Dafka describing a get that is in the distance? That's a whole different shir, and maybe at the end of Masechet Gittin we'll return to that. But first, we should notice that what's happening here is might be closer to our feeling around divorce, that first the couple actually separates and many times are not living with one another. And then there is the giving of the get. And what we know also that such a situation can also take place if a woman is an aguna and the husband is not here and is not here to give her the get, then we will be using a shaliach also. So this is another thing that is here implied inside the Mishnah. So first we look at this and we understand that these halachot are very important if the man and wife are not here in the same room, and there could be many different reasons for this. So now the Mishnah said that a shaliach that comes from Medinat Hayam and brings a get from the husband has to say b'fanai nechtam b'fanai nechtam, and a machloket in the Gemara. Why? What's the reason that he has to say? And the Gemara gives two different ta'amim, one by Rabba and one by Rava. Mai ta'ama? Rabba amar lefi she'en beki'in lishma. Rava amar lefi she'en edim metzuim lekaymo. Rava says the reason is that you need to have bekiut belishma, and Rava here does not explain what is lishma, and that's what we're going to try to understand in this gefet. And Rava says it's because you don't have enough edim to be mekayem the get. And what is exactly a kiyum of get, and what is kiyum of shtarot? We will have to see that also. So each explanation has to be learned. And again, today we won't be going into the din of Rava, we will be going into the din of Rabba Lishma. And here's another thing to say about the Masechta. This Masechet, besides of dealing with Gittin, actually gives us a lot of material. What do we do with Shtarot and Ofer Klali? What do we do if somebody is writing a note? Notes in halacha. How do you regard a note, not only in Gittin, but also notes of different kind? And the question of kiyum shtar, the kiyum of the note, that's what Rava says. And actually he says that the problem here is not only in a get. It sounds as if the problem is in general in all kinds of shtar, all kinds of notes. But Rava is giving us dafka a problem in the get, that in a get you need lishma. Okay, the Gemara, as we said, did not explain what is lishma, what is Rava. For that we need the Rishonim and other sugyot. But the Gemara brings us three nafkaminot. Mai benayu, ika benayu. What is the difference between Rava and Rava? Lemaise, how will this look different in halachic aspects? So, three nafkaminot. One, the atyuhu beitrei. If somebody brings a get, but there are two people bringing the get, that will be a nafka mina. We'll see in a moment how. Inami מדina למדינה בארץ ישראל, inami באותה מדינה במדינת hayam. So why are these nafka minot? If two people are bringing the get, it's good for Rabba, it's not good for Rabba. Why is it good for Rabba? Because two people can be mekayim the get, but these two people might not know if there was lishma or not. ממדינה למדינה בארץ ישראל, what's the nafka mina here? It sounds as if people will know lishma, as we will see soon, but still you won't have edim. Inami באותה מדינה, במדינת הים, again, people will know lishma, but will not have edim. I'm continuing in the Gemara, and the Gemara continues and asks, ולרבא דאמר, לפי שאין בקיאים לשמה, wait, just one moment. ולרבא דאמר, לפי שאין בקיאים לשמה, ליבאי תראי, מידי דהווה הכל עדויות שבתורה. So the Gemara asks, Rabba said that the reason that the shaliach has to say b'fanai nechtav b'fanai nechtam is because lishma, and not because we need 280. And the Gemara asks, how can it be? Don't you need 280 to say that the woman is megoreshet? What we're doing here is that we have a woman who's an eshet ish, and now we want to say this woman is no longer an eshet ish. Now she's a pnuya. So for that you need 280. So the 280 could say that the status has changed. Continues the Gemara and says, no, you don't need 280 to say that a status of a woman has changed. We know that if one person comes and says that something that was asur is mutar, something that was mutar is now asur, and there are all kinds of different situations that such a thing can happen, and eid echad is enough. Says the Gemara, no, Yael, you don't understand. דלא יתחזק איסורה. ולחד יתחד וכיסור הדשת איש, הווה דבר שבערווה, ואין דבר שבערווה פחות משתיים. You should know that this text in the Gemara is very, very, very deep and has a lot of commentary on it. Why? Because this is the sugya of Echad ne'eman b'yisurin. It's a very heavy sugya, and we ask ourselves, when is an eid echad enough, and when do we need more? And here the Gemara uses two different statements. One, itchazak isura, and the other, eshet ish, and the third, davar shebe'erva. And what is exactly the connection between these three things? It is hard to say from the commentary of the Gemara, and that's a very big sugya. But anyway, bottom line, the sugya says it is true that eid echad is ne'eman b'yisurin. That is true, but some isurin eid echad is not ne'eman for. The isur of eshet ish is not something that you can work with one aid. Why? Because here it's chazak isura and it's davar shebe'erva, and maybe these are two different explanations. Let's look at them as one or two. Okay, so one is that we know that this woman is asur. So that's Itzchazak Isura. You have to change something that you know for sure, which is Asur. So that's a problem in itself. And another thing is it's not Saman Isur, it's a very Chamor Isur, because this woman is Erva. And therefore, if she will be married, even if she's an Eshet Ish, the marriage does not count. It's as if she's No'efet and the children are Mamzerim. So this is not only a problem of Itzchazak Isura, it's also a problem that this Isur can create a lot of problems, very heavy problems in the halachic world. So that's why you cannot use eid echad for this. Continues the Gemara and says, okay, so why did Rabbah say that one man is enough? Why isn't Rabbah saying that you have to have two people? Rov bekin him, says the Gemara. ואפילו לרבי מאיר דחי יש למיעוטה סתם ספרי דדיין מיגמד מירי, ורבנן עוד יצרוך, והכה משום מיגונה הקלו בה רבנן. Says the Gemara, very interesting statement. They say, most people are beki, and most people know that in order to write a get, you have to have two aidim that are saying that this is actually something that's happening, that there is a get here, that the man is being megarish the woman. And that is why the sofer will not write the get if he's not 100% sure that this is really a get. And it is true that Rabbi Meir has a shita that he's afraid also of miuta, of few people which are not beking. That is true. But still, people who are writing the get are beking. So we don't even consider Rabbi Meir, and also according to Rabbi Meir, he will allow it here. And the reason that Chachamim needed in the first place to aid him was Mishum, it was Din de Rabbanan, because generally people are Baki. And here, because it's a problem of Igun, okay, it's very hard to find two people that will deliver the get. One person you can, two people will mean nobody will deliver Gittin, and a woman will be stuck on the other side of the ocean. So Mishum Iguna Ikelu Barabanan. Even though there's an Isur Shadish here, and even though we know that we need two people, so Chachamim say, listen, the Sufrim know this. And it is true that lechatchila, we want to have two people there. But if it's shaliach dafka from Medinat Hayam, we're being mekel here, mishum mikuna ekelu barabanan. And this thing in the Masechet, on one hand, having this a very serious isur, devasha be'erva, and on the other hand, saying we have to be mekel, mishum mikuna ekelu barabanan, these two powers in the sugya will continue to struggle throughout the sugyot, and we'll see that sometimes this is what is talking sometimes here, and the whole Masechet is around the need to be sure that a woman is Megreshet, but on the other hand, understanding that you cannot be Machmir here, that we have to be Mekel, Mishum Iguna, because that's a horrible tragedy that a woman is stuck and cannot continue with her life, because there is a problem that you cannot bring the get over. Okay, so this is already interesting. Let's continue in the Gemara. The Gemara asks, Hai Kulahu? Chumahu. Chachamim wanted to make the wife's life easier. Mishum Iguna? This is not making it easier. Why? Because this kula is creating a chum. How is that? The matzrachat letrei lo atei bal ume'arer ufas elei. Had atei bal me'arer ufas elei. Okay? This kula is creating a chumrah. Why? Because if you have two people saying this is a get, even if the husband comes and says, I'm sorry, I didn't mean, I changed my mind, this was puzzle, whatever, we won't even listen to him because you have two edim that say that this get is kasher. But if it's just an ed echad, the husband can come and say things, and suddenly we won't be sure, is this get okay? And maybe this woman's life will be ruined. So what kind of kula is this? This is actually creating a chumrah. Continues the Gemara and says, Kevan de'amar bar b'fnei kama notno la, Rabbi Yochanan ve'Rabbi Chanina, אחד אמר בפני ב' ואחד אמר בפני ג', ניכר המדקדק ולא עתי לאירועי נפשי. Says the Gemara, you should know that this is not a problem. Why? Because when the get is being written, then the husband has to give the get to the shaliach, and then, according to halacha, he has to have 2 or 3 people. So there are 80, and the husband knows that if he will come and say something about this get, these people will come and be ma'id against him. So the shaliach can be one person because he is actually covered by other people at the moment of giving the get to the shaliach in the other side of Medinat Hayam. Okay, so this is the opening sugya, and as we said, and you can feel, there's a lot going on here. And what we want to focus on is din lishma. So, in the lishma, Rashi explains it in the following way. What is the problem with din lishma? Says Rashi. Ve'en bnei Medinat Hayam bnei Torah. Rabbanit Yael said that this is not true today, okay? Then, today, people are Baruch Hashem bnei Torah, not only in Israel. But there, the Gemara says, or according to Rashi, bnei Torah were in Israel, and in the Tfutzot, in the Golah, people were not bnei Torah. אז אין בני מדינת הים בני תורה, ואינם יודעים שצריך לכתוב הגט לשם האישה. קרא כתיב וכתב לה, ספר כריתות לה, דהיינו לשמה. לכך אומר השליח, בפני נכתב בפני נחתם, וממילא שיילין נכתב לשמה, והוא אומר אם, ולקמל מפרש, מאי תאמה לא יצרכו נמי למימר לשמה. Okay, so here we see that Rashi says, what is the problem? The problem is that there is a din of lishma that you learn from the pasuk v'katav la lishma, and this din is not known enough in the Golah, and therefore a sofer might not write the get in the right way, and he won't know that he has to do din lishma, and that's why the shaliach has to say, listen, lefanai nechtam, and then the Beit Din will also ask the shaliach, wait, okay, you say it's nechtam and nechtam, was it also lishma? And then the shaliach will say yes. Okay, so what's strong in Rashi and what's hard in Rashi. What's strong in Rashi is the explanation. Okay, he explains very simply what is the problem. The problem is not knowing the halacha, and that we want to make sure that even people who don't know the halacha actually wrote the get in the right way. What's hard in Rashi, what's dochak in Rashi, is that Rashi is adding a question in the Gemara that was not written. In the Gemara and in the Mishnah, it says that you ask the shaliach, b'fanai nechtav, b'fanai nechtam. There is no word saying that you also ask the shaliach, was it written lishma? And according to Rashi, that is the question, and that question should have been written in the Gemara, at least for the shita of Rabbah, and that's a dochak in Rashi. And because of that dochak, Tosfot does not agree with Rashi and goes in a different direction. And here we have Tosfot Dibro Matchil Lefi She'en, Rabbanit Tam is Cholek on Rashi. And let's see what Rabbanit Tam says. Umefarash Rabbanit Tam. L'chol Gefet Gittin Beki'in. Says Rabbanit Tam, no, the people in Chum know the halacha very well. They're Baki. So what's the problem? Ela dehach drasha dekatav lach lishma eina niret lehem ikar drasha. Says Rabbanit Tam, this is not a question of not knowing or not understanding. This is a question of being cholek. People in Medinat Hayam were cholek on the drasha. The drasha bekatav la lishma, as we will see soon, is a very hard drasha and nothing very easy to understand the drasha and also what the drasha implies. And this drasha was actually in the machloket in Eretz Yisrael. This drasha was known and said to be halacha, and in Chul, people did not accept it as halacha, and therefore they really did not write Gittin this way. And this is actually a portrayal of a machloket hilchatit that Bnei Eretz Yisrael want to make sure that they're going according to their psak. So Rabbanit Tam says, "En beki'in perusho en chosheshin ladrasha delishma, velachar shelamdu delakama perush leachar shekibluah." So Rabbanit Tam, if you'll continue in the Gemara, you will see that the Gemara then will say that this thing actually solved itself, because later on, this drasha was actually no longer in a machloket, and therefore the din of lishma was no longer problematic. Continues the Tosfot and says, "V'had peresh contrast. Memela shailinan le'yahav lishma ve'amar en nir'in delo mishtamit b'shum duchta she'yeh tzarich lishael v'od im ken le'ma ika benaynu im tzarich lishael." So at the end of the Tosfot, Rabbanit Tam says Rashi is big dochak, because Rashi added words into the mouth of Rabbah, and according to Rabbah, you have to ask the shaliach, was it written lishma? And if that is true, says the Tosfot, it's not only adding a few words in Rabbah. You should have had a fourth nafkamina. We saw 3 nafkaminot. You should have had another nafkamina. Ika benayu. In tzarich lishael, lishma or no. So it says the Tosfot, this is a very big dochak, because it's not only adding a few words, it's really adding a whole line in the Gemara, which does not exist. So let's look at Rabbanit Tam and see what he said. First of all, he's telling us that the din of lishma is a din that was in a machloket, and we want to understand the din of lishma more. And another thing, he says that en beki'in means en chosheshim. So I think this is a slight dochak in Tosfot, because in Rabbanit Tam, because it says en beki'in. It doesn't really, en beki'in does not sound like en chosheshim. So that's the dochak of Rabbanit Tam. But it is true that the dochak of Rabbanit Tam is much smaller than the dochak of Rashi. Let's sum up the 2 different commentaries, and we'll see the difference and understand more what is the machloket between Rashi and Rabbanit Tam. So according to Rashi, who's lo baki? It's the people are lo bakiim. People in Medinat Hayam, the people are Megarish, and also this, they're not baki. According to Rabbanit Tam, it's not an issue of the people; it's the issue of the sofrim, and the sofrim are not lo baki. The sofrim are cholek and the lishma. And according to Rashi, the people are not baki and the sofrim, but they don't know the lishma. Okay, so that's one difference, 2 differences between Rashi and Tosfot. Who is lo baki, and what does it mean being lo baki? And also, what is Rabbah fixing here? So what is Rabbah afraid from? According to Rashi, Rabbah is afraid that if people don't know din lishma, what will happen? So for this, we need to understand what is b'chad din lishma. So let's go back to Tosfot. Tosfot explained to us that there's a din of lishma, and that it's being in a machlok. So here you need to read the rest of the Gemara to know. But din lishma means, and you'll see that in Sugya later, that it is not enough to give a get to a woman and use a get that has already been written before. You cannot just print it out of the internet and give it to her. It has to be given for this woman specifically. And therefore, if you have two women with the same name and two men with the same name, you can't take one get that was written in the same names as yours and use it for you. Because in the writing of the get, you have to be specific to this couple, this specific couple. It's not a matter of names. It's not a matter of finding out who they are. It has to be really created for this specific situation. Why is that? So that's a whole sugya, and we'll see that it's not easy to separate a man and a wife, and you need to have a very special tool for that. And what is machloket here is what kind of tool is it? And according to the din of lishma, it sounds that you have to have a tool that has been built specifically for this specific marriage. So what is Rashi afraid from, and what is Tosfot afraid from? Tosfot is afraid that the people in Chul don't accept din lishma and think, no, the whole issue is whether or not we can know who these people are, and therefore if they have the same names, it's good enough. And that's fine. We don't need this lishma thing. And that's what has been changed later on. According to Rashi, he's afraid of the people and not from the sofrim. So what is he afraid from? That people will find a get that has already been written and reuse it, because we're all for recycling, and we're recycling again. Also, writing again is a lot of expenses are involved. You have to go to a sofer, you have to have deal, you have to have, it's a whole big thing. So if there's one get with names which are exactly like yours and your wife, you'll use the same get for you. Why not go into all this business? So that's what Rashi's afraid from, that people will think that it's a problem to write another get. They don't want to use the expenses, and they have another person in town that has exactly the same names as theirs, which can be happen with Jews. And that's what Rashi's afraid from, that people will recycle. And according to Tosfot, he's afraid not of recycling, but of writing a new get in a wrong way. What is the difference in din lishma, according to Rashi and according to Rabbanit Yael? According to Rashi, the problem with din lishma, and the reason that you have to have a person telling you that this is a get, that is a new get, and that was created dafka for this couple, is because there is no way that you can tell a get that has been written in lishma and a get that hasn't been written in lishma. And therefore, people might think we can recycle it. According to Tosfot, din lishma is not only special in that it's nothing that you can tell from looking at the get. There's no forensic evidence if this has been written in lishma, but also that this din is in a machloket, and that's why this din dafka has to be strengthened by a shaliach that says lefanai nichtav, lefanai nichtav. Okay, so that's machloket Rashi and Tosfot, Rabbanit Yael, and what I want to add is also another Baal Tosfot, the Ri, which is quoted in the Rashba. The Ri adds and gives a different perspective, and he says, "V'ri zal peresh kan, ורבננו דאיצרוך, משום שלא יערער הבעל שהסופר כתבו להתלמד, והחתים עליו הוא עדים שלא היה הוא והם בקיאים לשמה." The Ri, it sounds, is not very happy with the dochak of Rabbanit Yael. Right? We said that Rabbanit Yael said lo bkiim means lo chosheshim. And that's also a problem reading the Gemara. And the Ri solves this problem very elegantly, and he says, what we're afraid of is that if you have a sofer that's learning to become a sofer, writing a get is a big thing, and people actually sit down and write all kinds of gittin that are not good for anything, just to learn how to write the get. Right. So the Ri says, I'm afraid that the husband will come and say, this get is not a good get, even though it has my name in it. That's true, but this sofer really wrote this get just as an exercise. It was his homework. It wasn't my get. It wasn't a real get. There was no lishma there. And that is what we're afraid of, that the husband will say, the sofer was not baki. This was a sofer that was just a student. And therefore, when he wrote this get, it wasn't for gerushin. It was for learning how to write gittin. And that's how Ri explains that the problem here is the bekiyut of the sofer. So Ri is like Tosfot in saying that the problem here is Sofrim and Eidim that they are not Beki. Okay, they're not Beki because they're learning how to write Gittin. And what is he afraid of? He's afraid of Gittin, which are created just as homework for Sofrim that are learning how to write Gittin, will be used as real Gittin. So according to Rashi, the problem is that people will recycle a real get and think if a get has been used, that's fine, I can recycle it, that's the problem. According to Rabbanit Yael, the problem is that the Sofrim will not write get lishma because they're cholek on the din. And according to Ri, we're afraid that Gittin that we use as homework were not being shredded, but we're getting into the cycle and people are using them. So it's not recycling like Rashi, it's more like Rashi, but it's a different kind of recycling because here the problem is that there are actually Gittin around which are written just as an exercise. And what is the difference in Din Lishma? According to Rashi, Din Lishma is special in that you cannot tell, no forensic evidence if it's there or not. According to Rabbanit Yael, that it's true, but it's also another problem that Din Lishma is in a machloket. And according to the Ri, he's more like Rashi, saying that, again, there's no forensic evidence, and therefore you won't be able to tell between a get that was written only as an exercise to a get that was a get in fact. So this is the Masechet Gittin on Din Lishma. And as we said, Din Lishma will continue with us for the rest of the Masechet, and then you will see a lot of other sugyot that are joining this idea of Din Lishma. So I think you can return to this Gefet again. And what we also saw that is in the sugya we have Etchat Neman B'Isurin, Etchat Kisura, Davar Shebe'erva, and Mishum Iguna Ekelu Barabanan. And the sugya opened our eyes to see that the Masechta is dealing directly with what to do if we have a get from a man to a woman, which are far away from each other. And this situation is, of course, very important in the sugya of Haginut. And in the sugya of Haginut, that on one hand, there's this Isur Chamor of Davar Shebe'erva, Chazak Isura, but on the other hand, Mishum Iguna Ekelu Barabanan, and of course the question is, when are we Mekel and still continuing to hold the right way to deal with this very, very serious Isur is the main thing that is important in this Masechet, because this Masechet is about Tikkun Olam, Mishum Iguna Ekelu Barabanan, and how can Chamim be Mekel, Mishum Tikkun Olam, even if you have such an Isur Chamor of Eshet Ish Itchazak Isura Davar Shebe'erva. So I will finish in the Tefillah of Rabbanit Chana. May our learning of Torah will connect to this Gemara of trying to do Tikkun Olam, but doing Tikkun Olam well, and in a way that holds the Torah and continues the Torah, but still being Metaked Olam, because the Torah is here to be Metaked Olam. So Be'ezrat Hashem, I hope we will continue learning Yachad Masechet Gittin, and you will enjoy it and grow in your learning, and we will meet again next week. Take care.